Hi, and thanks for checking out the AudioBox USB and the AudioBox Studio. The AudioBox Studio contains all the components you need to record your first song. It has the AudioBox USB 2-input, 2-output interface, the USB connector or cable to connect to your computer, the M7 microphone, the large diaphragm condenser, and the XLR required to plug into the AudioBox, and your HD7 headphones so you can actually monitor what it is that you're recording into your software. Now, Studio One Artist is also included. That's the recording software that you'll use to record your ideas through your microphone and interface into your computer. Once you get that set up, once you've installed your drivers and you've installed Studio One Artist, we can actually connect the physical components. So with the USB cable that's supplied, connect it to the computer, and on the other end, the smaller end, connect it to the AudioBox USB. Take your M7 microphone, connect the XLR cable to the microphone, and then the other end into input 1. We have a guitar here, so the combo jacks on the front of the AudioBox USB accommodate XLR and 1/4 inch. So we can use an XLR microphone level or a 1/4 inch instrument level. That means I can plug up a guitar or I can plug a bass guitar straight into this without any sort of DI or any other component in the mix. Now, once we've got everything set up, we can start our session in Studio One. So let's take a look at what's going on in there. This is the Studio One start page. In the start page, I can create new songs, open existing documents, grab a recent file. What we're going to do is we're going to create a new song. So up here where it says create new song, click that. And then it opens a template dialog. I've got styles, interfaces, and users. So what I want is interfaces because we're using the AudioBox USB. Next thing I'll do is I'll name my session. "4424" is cool. I'll change the time base to bars, and then we'll just click OK. A great thing about Studio One is it makes every step of this process as easy as possible. Using the template has allowed us to have the tracks created for us, have the tracks armed for us, and the inputs and outputs were already configured. So what that means is when I play the guitar or I talk into the microphone, I should see level on these tracks. So remember, we plug the mic into input 1, which is track 1. We plug the guitar in here. Now, I'm going to tap on my mic and you'll notice we don't see any level. And that's because we didn't hit the 48V button on the front of the AudioBox USB. That button has to be lit and engaged to actually pass audio, and you'll kind of hear that happening right there. Check 1, 2, hey, hey. So now we've got level there. And let's check the guitar and see if that's got level as well. And that has level as well, so that's cool. Now, the next thing that's really important to know is you have to do a level setting procedure. And what that means is we have to talk into the microphone or play the guitar the way we're going to do it while we're recording, and we need to change the preamp level or the gain level on the front of the AudioBox USB. So when I talk into the mic, check, 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 check. That's obviously a little too loud, so we'll back it up. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. What we want is it to be loud enough to actually record a good solid signal, but not so loud that it clips or distorts the incoming signal. We'll do the same thing with the guitar. Okay, great. So I'm going to be recording guitar first, so let's unarm the microphone track. And we need to kind of still configure this session. So the first thing I'm going to do is go down here to the transport where it says tempo, and it says 120 BPM. Now what that means is it's 120 beats per minute. And I need it to be at 80 for this particular song that we're recording. So I'll click it and I'll type in 80, and then it's changed the grid of the timeline. So this is the timeline or the ruler. And if you notice, I'll change it again back to 120. You'll see the difference in size. See, it's got smaller there, and we'll change it back. A little bit larger. Now, the click is engaged. So what I'll do is I'll hit play, and you should hear it. I got it set to cowbell, and that works perfectly for me. So now that I've got the tempo set up, we can actually kind of make a pass. The first thing though I want to do is do a pre-roll. This allows me to actually get a count off before the track really starts recording. Let me tell you what that means, and I'll show you. I hit this button down here by the metronome that says pre-roll, and when I hit record, you'll notice it doesn't start immediately recording on the track, that it actually does a 4-bar count off, and then it starts recording. Now it's recording in Studio One. Okay, so that's what we want to do. Let's make this a little bit bigger for us, and we're off. Let me grab my pick. Okay, so that's our first pass, and if you'll notice right here, I kind of clipped the input, and that's not what we want. So what that means is I need to turn the input gain down. So I'll play here. That's a little bit better. Now, what we're going to do is we're making another pass, because I want to get a wide kind of stereo image. There's a cool way to do that. I can right-click, and I can duplicate track. And what that means is all the inputs, output settings, and any effects that I may or may not have had on that track follow when I duplicate the track. So let's arm it, and let's play to the existing track in the click, and then we'll do a little bit of a cool quick mix thing. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. Cool trick we can do is we can open our mixer, we'll unarm that track, and then we'll pan each track hard left and hard right. And what that means is tracks will come in and then they'll go stereo. It'll create a stereo image out of the output. Our output is over here to the right, and those incoming signal tracks that we just recorded here are over here on the left. Let's go ahead and group these. I can just group those together. So what that means is I can move the faders, or I can solo or mute, and everything kind of follows, which is great, kind of what I want. We'll group those and we'll recolor them, just so I can see what's what. Okay, so there's our 2 red guitar tracks. Let's listen back to that. And that's cool. So let's pull that click out of there and let's start working on a beat, an actual beat. So we'll open up our browser. So here's our mixer. And this is our browser. Now what the browser does is it has our instruments, effects, and any loops and samples and other files and such that live on our computer. It's bidirectional, which means I can pull stuff out of the browser into a session, and stuff from a session, WAV files, MIDI data, anything, back into the browser anywhere I want on my computer. So the next thing I want is to get some drums going. So I can audition drums right here in the browser. So double click. Now that seems to work, but I actually have some that I already created on my desktop. So I'll go to Files, and I'll grab the All Kicks here. Just drag that right down here below, and now we have. So we have kicks, but I also want kind of a snare sound, so I've got some claps as well. So we'll move the claps down here a little bit, and what I'm going to do is make these tracks just a touch smaller, and we'll make these 2 a different color, just so we can see what's what. So let's listen to that. So it seems like this last clap is the one that's the most on. So what I'll do is I'll just move this waveform, I'll trim it up, just like so, and I'll move that to the beginning. See, that seems spot on. And now I'm going to duplicate that, and all I have to do is hit D to duplicate to the end to match the All Kicks waveform. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we'll duplicate the kick and the claps all the way to the end of the song. So we hit D until we have as much as we need. So we should be good. Okay, so we've got that. I think it's just about time for us to go ahead and record a vocal. So I'm going to color that vocal track orange so we'll know what's what. And I'll put this guitar down for a second. And we'll go ahead and we'll just get a good vocal take here. Check, check, check. Level looks still pretty good. Maybe a little bit loud. And remember, down here in the transport, I still have the pre-roll engaged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the click back on by selecting the click here. And then what happens is it'll click in the pre-roll. So it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it'll start recording and I'll start singing. So pretty simple. Okay, so far so good. Let's try that. Oh, now I am going down, down where the we don't go. Oh man, he done told me something that you don't know. Said I Okay, so we've got a little bit of a vocal take, and there are some issues in that, but that's not a huge deal. What we can do is find where the issues are, and I've kind of pre-planned this. Right here at 17, I want to do this first part of the chorus. So what I can do is I can take this, and I can create a loop, and then I can turn that loop on. So I'm going to just loop this section that you see selected here. But what I'm also going to do is in Options, I'm going to record takes to layers. So I'm loop recording, and every time I make a pass, it's keeping that take to a layer. So I'll make my... So every time I do a pass, it's recording that take to a layer. What we'll do now is I'll go ahead and make the pass. I've got my pre-roll, and I'll just keep singing the same thing over and over again. So here we go. Let's get this a little closer. So I've got the passes and everything seems to be recorded. So I've got all those that I can choose from for the best performance. So I use my Option or Alt key depending on if I'm on PC or Mac, and I can solo and listen to the take. Oh, now I'm gonna... Let's get rid of that click. Oh, now I'm gonna go. Let's listen to this one. Oh, now I'm gonna go. That's a lot stronger. So let's just swipe that and check this out. Boom. It advances up here right to the top track. So if I play it just back regular, it's going to play back this lane here. Okay, so that works. Now there's the last little bit of this information here. Let's solo that out real quick. Oop. So we'll Option click. The Cajun country where that Gulf wind blow. The Cajun country where that Gulf wind blow. So I like that one there, so I will select that, and boom, it'll push it up to the top as well. So now we've created a completely different take. Oh, now I'm gonna go down to Cajun country where that Gulf wind blow. Sounds pretty cool. So that's a really cool, quick, easy way for you to comp the vocal or get the best vocal take that you can get. Now, we need to go ahead and start getting into our mixing techniques and what we're going to do with that. But before we do that, I'm going to show you how to record a bass without having a bass. So we have a guitar and we have a mic, so I'm obviously not going to sing the bass line. But what I can do is I can record guitar part and change it to a bass part, and I'll show you how I'll do that. Let's get rid of these tracks here. And we'll go ahead and create a new track. We'll add, or we'll duplicate this track. Oh, you know what? We don't want that. We're just going to create a new track. We'll call it bass, and I'm going to color it because I like colors. And that's coming in on input R. So click OK. And now all we have to do is arm that. And when I play my... We've got a guitar. So let's go back to the top. Let's take that loop off. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my guitar to make a bass. I'm going to play the bass line on this track. And again, we're still using, remember, our pre-roll down here in the transport. You got pre-roll here, and I've got my metronome on. But remember, it's only going to click the first 4 count, and then it's just going to start recording. So let's get started. Okay, a mediocre performance, but works nonetheless. So what I've done, and we'll go ahead and get rid of this layer. What I've done is I've played a guitar part, but it was more of a bass part that I played on my guitar. So let's listen back to that. Okay, so we've got that part. We need to make it sound like a bass. What we can do is Melodyne is integrated into Studio One, is I can select this track and hit Command M or Control M for PC, and it will analyze the track, creating MIDI data on top of it. So what I can do is, and you'll notice that it's actually playing MIDI data. Right? So we have the MIDI data now. What do we do with it? Well, you may or may not know this, but there are things called virtual instruments that can be triggered by MIDI. So that those MIDI notes can trigger instruments, and the instrument can sound like whatever you want. For this instrument, or for this instance, we need a bass guitar. So let's go to the browser and let's find our instruments. And in Presence, I want to get a bass guitar, and I want to get fingered bass. So boom, going to create a new track, and now I have a fingered bass sound on that track. All I have to do is select this track and drag the MIDI data down to the fingered bass. So we have our bass guitar sound, but it's not super low. So what I'm going to do is double click to open up the editor. I'm going to select all by hitting Command A or Control A for PC, and then I'll drag all of the notes that the MIDI notes that we implemented down an octave. So now. So now we've got a bass guitar. So let's listen to that with everybody. We'll make sure that we keep that one guitar pass muted. So now we've got that low end taken care of. Let's do a little bit of mixing here. We've got our vocal, we've got our guitars, we've got the bass guitar done, and we pulled in our kick and claps. Now I've got another session open that actually has all of this finished, and we can kind of look at some of the mixing techniques that we use to get our finished product. Cool thing about Studio One is I can have multiple sessions open simultaneously. So I'll open up this session, we'll listen back real quick. Okay, so we've got that all recorded. All of the elements are there. We've done some mixing. So let's take a look inside of here and see what we did. I think the first thing that we did was we had our claps here, and we created a sound. We compressed and EQ'd that just to kind of get an overall difference of sound. In the EQ, I rolled some stuff off in the low end, and then bumped some stuff in the mids and way up in the high. And compress it just to control the overall level of the sound of the clap. But we also sent this sound to a reverb. And what that does is it changes the overall tone of the room, right? So if we solo this, so you can hear kind of a room ambience on there that we added that makes it sound a little bit cooler. It gives it a nice characteristic. The next thing we did, we'll close that up, is we took the MIDI bass track and we put Ampire on that. So what is Ampire? Ampire is an amp modeler that allows you to change the sound of incoming signals. That's all it is. It's kind of an effect. I'll show you what it looks like. So this one specifically is a preset that I created that has a bass kind of preamp thing going on and a bass 210 cabinet with a little bit of EQ in the stomp box here. And this is what that overall sound sounds like. We'll solo that. So that gave it a little bit more edge. If I mute that, or turn it down rather. I'll start adding in the Ampire effect. It kind of gives it a little bit more drive. It gives it a cool EQ sound. So let's listen back to that with everything playing. Okay, it makes it sound a little bit more round. It gives it a cool affected sound. The next thing I want to show you is not really effects or any of that stuff. It's routing and panning and assignments and stuff like that in your mixer. Everything has to have a place. Everything has to be labeled. There's panning for directionality for the overall sound. Like when we first started, remember we panned the guitars hard left and right. But we have several guitar takes here. What we've done is we've routed the outputs of these guitar takes here, and we've run them through a bus. And what that means is all 6 of those tracks go through one stereo bus. And that stereo bus then goes to the output. Now what that lets us do is, instead of affecting all 6 of these tracks, we can just affect the overall bus output, which affects all the tracks. And that helps on processing power and things like that. So it's pretty cool. We've compressed that. And then the same thing with the vocals. Now I don't think there's any kind of effect on the vocal. Let's get that group going here. And then let's solo that and listen back. All night I'm going. So that is just a compressed vocal. I think there's a little bit of EQ as well. So we've rolled off a little bit and pulled some off in the mids and the high mids. Very simple to do that. Now what's cool about EQ and compression is when you're adding these things, and time-based effects for that matter, is you can drag and drop, remember, from our bi-directional browser. We go to our browser, we find our effect that we want. Let's say I want to put some reverb on something, and we'll just grab mix verb. What I'll do is on the bus, instead of each individual track, remember, I'll drag it to the send. So we'll get our mix verb, and boom, what that does is it creates a new track for the reverb to live on. It allows me to send this signal to the reverb so we can hear the reverb sound. All night I'm going. That's a little much. Down round when we don't go. Okay, so we've added some reverb. That's pretty cool. Let's say we want to put some EQ on this guy right here. So I go and find my EQ. Boom, drag, drop, got EQ. Let's listen to just that. Let's clear these solos. We'll move this guy out of the way real quick. All right, so that's a special effect as it is, but I can get in there and do all kinds of crazy stuff with this EQ. So let's say. Make it sound all kind of like different ways with the EQ, which is cool. We've also, on that particular track, put a little distortion to make it sound a little more old-timey. So once we've got everything mixed the way we want, we've got everything panned the way that we want, we can limit the overall output to raise the overall sound, the level. And we'll take a look at that. So over here on our main out, we've got our limiter. This limiter allows me to turn the overall mix up and down. So I will turn it down as this plays back. Turn the solos off. So you can hear the difference as I'm moving the input, and what I'm doing is I'm hitting the threshold of the limiter more, and it's causing it to turn up and compress more. And that basically limits or levels the overall output and allows us to bring our music, our multi-track mix, up to a commercial release level. Once I've got that, I'm ready to actually hand over my CD. So the two things I can do, I can bounce a CD by going to the song and then exporting mixdown. And that gives me all of my formats and the range that I want to export and where I want it to go on my computer. That way I can take that, throw it into iTunes, and create a CD. A cooler way to do this is to open up your Nimbit account, sign in, add the song, shoot it up to Nimbit, good to go. Now Nimbit is a direct-to-fan platform that allows me to take my mix, put it up on the internet, share it on Facebook and on my website and on my Nimbit page, and people can sell it, or I can give it to my friends for free, or I can share it with whoever I want. I can even suggest what they pay. It's definitely something to check out. If you have any more questions about AudioBox USB, Studio One Artist, or Nimbit, check us out at education@presonus.com.